Hey, welcome and welcome back to the Stash. Nightwing is one of the most iconic members of the Bat family and my personal favourite Robin out of the few that have taken up the role over the many decades. His comics have always been pretty fun to read, with Chuck Dixon's run being a very clear standout. Like many characters he wrote about, Chuck seemed to always have a great understanding of them. In many ways, whether it was his time on Batman or especially his time on Nightwing and Tim Drake Robin, many people view those series as the definitive versions of the characters. But post Chuck Dixon, Nightwing's had a pretty rough time trying to fly again. The New 52 could have been worse, and the entire Rick Grayson arc was just dragged out and beyond stupid. In many ways, it felt like Nightwing had disappeared. He hadn't been written properly in forever, and with every new release at the time seemingly wanting him dead, it felt like DC was going out of their way to try to ruin the character. But then steps in Tom Taylor. Tom completely revitalized the character. Dick Grayson is back in blue and back in Bloodhaven. He's no longer Rick Grayson, he's no longer this unrecognizable edgelord, he's back to being Nightwing in his purest form, and I love the start of his new run. I found Tom's stuff just so enjoyable. I'd eagerly wait each month for the next release, and I read it on the way back home on the train each time. Everything was looking up for the man with the incredibly tight suit, until it wasn't. But before we get into that, we are trying to reach 3,000 subscribers here at The Stash, so if you are new to the channel and like Nightwing or just comic content in general, feel free to stick around and maybe hit that subscribe button. We also have a channel membership down below, you get a bunch of cool little perks for a small price. Lastly, big shout out to Brandon for being a member for over 2 months now. Seriously, thank you so much, it goes a long way. But with all that being said, let's get straight back into the video. Now you might be wondering, well, what happened? What went wrong now with the Nightwing comics? But it's actually pretty simple. You see, Dick committed one sin in comics that the companies will always make you pay for. He was happy. In case you haven't been keeping up with the books, Dick, through the inheritance Alfred set up for him, gained a lot of money, and he used it to provide Bloodhaven a future it truly deserves. He became a symbol of hope to the people of the city, not just as Nightwing, but also as Dick Grayson. Him and Babs are dating again, and he's with the Titans like old times, and stopped his biggest faux blockbuster, which is something that's been building up for a very long time. Of course, naturally, when one falls, another takes their place, and in our case, this one being a new villain called Heartless. Heartless hates Dick Grayson, and as you'd expect, plans to ruin his life when he figures out him and Nightwing are one and the same. And so far, for Tom Taylor's final arc, we saw the rise of Nightwing, but now we'll see his fall. So join us today as we go over Nightwing issue 116, Fallen Grayson part 3 of 5. Our story begins with a public press conference held by the Commissioner of Bloodhaven. Now this is used as a way to recap all the previous events of Fallen Grayson. It starts off with Commissioner Sawyer, can you confirm that Bloodhaven detectives once interviewed Dick Grayson in relation to the murder of Martin Holt, a victim of Heartless? It continues with, footage of Heartless was captured on the night the homeless tent city burned. He seemingly set it on fire purely to terrorize these children. No one I've spoken to can confirm the whereabouts of Dick Grayson on that night. After the tent city burned, Grayson's foundation set up a new home for these children, a haven. Like the tent city, this haven was set on fire not long after a night when the children were in their beds. Commissioner Sawyer tries to improve the situation but only makes it much worse by saying that fire was caused by Roland Desmond, who is known as Blockbuster, because then they continue with Roland Desmond, who was found dead on the same night, murdered by Heartless. Desmond, who was seen with Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon at the opening of Haven, the crime lord known as Blockbuster who left millions of dollars to Dick Grayson's charity upon his death, and the reporter who discovered this connection and publicly accused Dick Grayson of taking blood money, then had his heart removed at the scene where Dick Grayson was apprehended. I have here name change records from Bloodhaven City Hall. The mayor Melinda Zuko recently changed her name to Grayson. The mayor who has gone to extraordinary lengths to implement Dick Grayson's charity program is his sister. Now, who only became mayor after the mysterious disappearance and suspected murder of the former mayor. The financial records which link Blockbuster to Dick Grayson's charity were once in the possession of the former police commissioner Gil McLean. After he obtained these documents, he was executed in this very building. Now all of this is being heard by our main protagonist. Nightwing from his run-in with the police is left rotting in a hospital bed, with him being handcuffed as a safety measure, although we all know that mere handcuffs is just child's play for him. Meanwhile, Babs is instructing everyone ranging from the Titans, members of the Bat family, and other friends like Superman to not interfere unless it's a direct order from her or Batman. After she ends the call, Haley, their dog, notices a sudden return from her favorite owner. Babs patches him up as best as she can, and she suggests that as a way to clear his name, he could reveal his identity as Nightwing, even if it would then allow the public to deduce the rest of their secret identities in the Bat family, which is just insanely out of character by everyone, by the way. Dick knows that that's something he couldn't ask for, even though Barbara tries to reassure him that Bruce mentioned it first, and everyone is willing to sacrifice who they are to save Dick. Again, out of character. Not the fact that they're willing to save Dick, but the fact that they're willing to compromise their identity as the first choice option. He shows his gratitude, but confirms he wants to reveal the true Heartless. However, he needs to go on a journey, especially since there's still poison in his blood, causing him to have a fear of heights. Babs wants to join, but it's something he must do alone. He needs to find the man who helped him all those years ago when he was just a kid. But this man is in fact a dead man. We get this nice little flashback showing Dick and Boston Brand's first interaction, and then we cut back to the present day as we see Dick set out on his journey. He travels all through Europe, and sure, he could have had someone like Superman to fly him there, or Cyborg to boom tube him there, but he needed this journey. Deep down, he needed this time of peace to be able to reflect on his life. He finally arrives to Nanda Parbat, a mystical city, a home to a dead man. Meanwhile, back in Bloodhaven, Heartless is only pouring more salt into the wound and further tarnishing Dick's good name. He claims that he's been secretly building a safe haven for criminals, and now that they live among them, ranging from the government and to the police force. If anyone tries anything stupid, he warns the people of Bloodhaven he has many children in prison, and the body of one of their fathers can be found at the pier. He assures everyone another parent will die every 30 minutes until the Titans leave the city. This obviously prompts him to make a very public departure, and then in his ultimate play, Heartless calls out Nightwing to stop him, unless of course he's too afraid to arise to the occasion. Now everyone, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. In respect for his son, a man who countless times has made him proud, a man who stepped in for his father and became the Batman whenever he was unable to, even if he didn't want to. He repays that man the only way he can at this moment. Bloodhaven needs its hero. Bloodhaven needs Nightwing. Now I felt like in terms of story, this was a massive step up from the recent work of Tom Taylor. I honestly found the whole pirate story arc incredibly boring and just at times incredibly embarrassing to read and collect, so I just decided to skip it altogether. When I heard about this, I just knew I had to lock in. It's always hard reading one of your favorite characters just get absolutely destroyed, especially when you already know that that's just going to be a major part of the plot, but I get this feeling, especially from the way this issue was handled, that there's hope of things not ending in a total disaster for Dick, and that honestly makes me a bit more happy. Because I know it's just me at the end of the day trying to predict what happens, but it would be too lame and honestly a major step backwards if this final arc by Tom Taylor ended in Dick's life being completely ruined again. I gotta say though, I'm very impressed with how Tom's handled the entire framework by Heartless. It's surprisingly cohesive and actually feels like it could work. Granted, the Titans part was a bit stiff. I understand how given the current public reception is very low, they probably felt like they had to do that. But honestly, I feel like if they really wanted to, there was definitely a loophole to be found. It's sort of like how in Death of Ultimate Spider-Man, Bendis wrote it so they did that really stupid thing of making the Human Torch and the Iceman fight the wrong villain, which resulted in the Green Goblin getting a massive power-up, which resulted in the eventual death of Spider-Man. I think that this story is a great example of how to ruin your character's life without making it completely stupid. The whole blackmail part works so well, especially with all the context, and this entire series, save for a few story arcs, has honestly been up there for Comic of the Year for me. It was definitely my favourite series last year, and I'm glad to see it so far going out with a bang. Another cool part I like is just seeing how everyone in the DC superhero community just admire Nightwing. He's like everyone's best friend, and I really just enjoy seeing that trend continue. Some of my favourite Nightwing stories just come from the more pure at heart stuff, like just him chatting with Superman or him and Wally being best buds. Now honestly, I have zero idea how to feel about Nightwing being a thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, in a way it's sweet, and I always enjoy Bruce and Dick acting like a loving father and son, but I mean, come on, like this just looks so wrong. Plus, since Nightwing has a domino mask, you could easily just tell it's not the same person. Hell, even from the build alone you know something is up. At least when Dick wore the bat suit, you only saw his chin and mouth so you could get away with it to the general public, but this? It honestly just feels like Tim Drake would have been a much better choice with all things considered. Hell, now that I think about it, even Jason would have been way better. Plus, it would have been nice to see Jason redeem himself from the last time he dressed up as Nightwing. I can't lie, just looking at that panel of Nightwing is just so wrong. It feels like something I'm not meant to see. Even online, the reaction is torn between either this is interesting or this is the worst thing ever. I get why Tom made this choice, and I feel like I need to wait for the next issue to be able to judge it properly, but as for now, if I had to pick between the two options, I gotta say I would rather Jason or Tim be the one to do it. With Bruce, it just looks and feels wrong to me. Overall, this was a pretty strong addition to the Fallen Grayson arc, and I'm really excited for next month's issue. I do hope though that by the end of everything, Dick's life isn't in complete shambles though, because that'll really determine a lot about how I feel about everything when the story's all done. As for now though, so far, so good. But that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because here, any support means so much. I'd love to hear what you thought of this issue down below in the comment section. We can start a conversation. What did you think of Bruce Wayne now being Nightwing? But also be sure to tune in next time, same web time, same web channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and see you in the next one.